permission for us to start. And I think that the person that I need to ask permission from is Brother Ed Dixon, Esquire, on permission to get started. You know, I think the tradition says that you ask the elder.
And so what? So why?
But anyway, I wanted everyone to know we are fortunate that he just had another birthday. So it's a gift that he just had another one. And hopefully he's going to be around long enough to advise some of us how to make it through this. Kevin, where are you? I just got through telling Brother Dixon about your situation where you helped a lot of people in Memphis, and then didn't they extract you from the position of being the president of the local?
Powers that be.
The powers that be. So I had informed him of that happening, and at some point, I hope in the future, you and Ed get a chance to talk, because we might be able to figure some things out. But what I want you to understand is I'm asking, where's Miss Bell? Is she in here?
Not yet.
Miss Bell, that's good. I have problems. I'm asking Miss Bell, and where's you, Dave Jones? See, Dave Jones was supposed to take the place of the local president for the CBTU chapter for Memphis. Are you following me? But he has not been able to do it. You know, between the fire department and everything else, like you.
And the carrot team.
And the carrot team, you know, you working from the time you think about waking up to the time you think about going to sleep. Well, it's the same thing happening here. So we've got to figure out how to do this. Now, you already had everything organized. Matter of fact, I was looking for Trent and some of your henchmen to be here with you.
They're in class.
No problem. You're here. That's what's important. Gregory, all of them.
He in class too.
Because you've already got this thing organized, and what you and those individuals, what you're all capable of putting together, we might be able to utilize that to do what you've been attempting to do for Ms. Cooper and Copper. Now that's not working out. Whether you admit it or not, I know you're the president of that, but that ain't working out. So how about this? How about we take what you have put together and we get Miss Bell to figure out how, and Dave Jones to figure out how to get you in position to be that person that we're going to present as president of the local chapter of CBTU. Now understand what I'm after, Kevin. If you become president of the local chapter of CBTU, we don't have to worry about organizing the communities in the way that everybody's been trying to do it. You see, in every community, you've got union members.
Right.
And they're all unorganized. What you've done was the closest thing that anybody has done so far to actually bring this all together. So now all we have to do is kind of climb on the back of what you put together. So you've already met Bill, and you know that the convention is about to be next month. I don't know if you're going to be able to go.
It's in May.
It's in May. Right. You know, and like I said, you've got two of the best minds sitting behind you that we've got in Memphis. And everyone here, Booker, I know you know, and your henchmen, I know y'all know, you've got two of the best people relative to all of this thing about y'all keep talking about. What you talk about, community development. We're gonna do something in the community, right? Well, I don't know anybody who has been doing more than what Mr. Holyfield and Frank Banks has been doing in the Memphis community, as far as economics, who's been doing any more to make anything happen?
Nothing even close.
No one that you can mention. Who?
Nobody but Robert.
Robert Lipscomb. And he was working from a position of being a part of the bureaucracy. All I'm suggesting is, we see those children sitting over there in the corner. Some kind of way they've got to learn what you and Ed, Attorney Dixon, what you know. Because if we keep going through this and we never pass it on, we don't have anything. So hopefully, I'm saying to you, Kevin, that's why I needed you to show up so I could be in front of Dave and Carolyn, could suggest that we use this as a strategy to get Kevin, because you don't have time, all right? You have Christy and Gregory and everybody else that will work with you. You already put something together. It's a machine. We might as well turn it on. And you've already got AFL-CIO contacts. Now, all we need to do is get you in a position, I think, to sit up there at CBTU every year and get ready to pull all these communities together. It's what they're after anyway. All right, so now I'm talking to us. All right, so now where are we? I wanted to introduce. Did I introduce you, Mr. Holyfield?
No,
No,
you didn't.
no.
I didn't. Well, I want everyone in here to know who he is. And again, he is someone that we all should know about. I don't know if we should all know him, but we should know about him.
That's right.
And we should know that he and others that he has worked with, they're the ones that have been involved in actually trying to do something other than just run off at the mouth. So everyone, I don't know if you need to stand up or anything. This is Mabry Holyfield, all right? And I don't want to tell you to give him a round of applause, but I think you should.
A round of applause for this.
And hopefully he has an education program. We may be able to figure something out that if we can, we're going to include what he does with what we're doing with the reading program, where we can try to now get finance and economics inside of the different communities that we pull together with your efforts that you've already put together, that we're not going to watch just go under the, by the wayside. Because when I was telling you about his position, everything that's going on, didn't you get a frown on your face, Brother Ed? Yeah.
When you said it, I didn't understand what you were saying.
And I can't be any clear. What I said was,
I thought you had misstated.
no, he actually pulled something off that was a benefit to people in this area, in this region, the city of Memphis, and the powers that be, the union itself. As far as I understand, I could be wrong, said that you were no longer required as the local president, right? So at the same time, since everything is in place, we need to keep the organization that you put together in place. And we'll go on at this in another way, all right?
Charlotte's supposed to be here.
Well, I hope she comes. Charlotte is,
Charlotte's another CBTU member here, and she's the secretary. So she keeps the purse strings. And Charlotte, I think we can make it happen. And it would be really a good move.
and it's not about this, how some people like to think of everybody's competing with everybody. I don't want to do any competing with anything. It's not necessary. As a matter of fact, as soon as so-called people of color, so-called black people, stop trying to compete with each other, stop trying to outdo each other, and actually work together to put something together, we will accomplish something. So I think we can do this without Copper and CBTU being in conflict. I know that Ms. Cooper is a part of CBTU, and she was one of the organizers and originators of copper. So I'm sure she's going to be receptive to this. All right? So anyway, I don't want to take all of your time. Yes? No. What I'm getting ready to do is introduce Dave, I think.
Before, Dave, before we do take Dave, the kids are here, let them, they're gonna get an answer in a minute, so just let them go ahead and do their presentations.
Taj, were you and your father doing anything for everyone today? You weren't.
You told me you had a speech to say.
I have a speech to say.
Oh, okay. I
Because
thought you
not
told
with
me
his
no.
father.
Okay,
That's-
come on. You ready?
Let's
Step to the front with yourself.
What?
Step to the front. You don't have the microphone, so you gotta talk. No, stay right there. Hey. We don't have the microphone, so you gotta talk
Step
loud.
out here.
Talk loud and do what you need to do.
Hello, my name is Todd Square. I'm going to spell biology, geology, astrology, biology. B-I-O-L-O-G-Y, biology.
Good.
Geology, G-E-O-L-O-G-Y, geology.
Good job.
Astrology, A-S-T-R-O-L-O-G-Y, astrology. Thank you.
All right. Good job.
Consider you have a presentation? Huh? Okay, well, we don't worry about it. We just didn't know what we were looking at. Hey, Chef.
You want to do something?
Dave. Dave Jones is going to, I hope, introduce us all to a concept having to do with how we prepare. In other words, everyone here is expecting what happened in New Orleans to happen here, right? Hadn't thought about it. Well, you are expecting that what happened in Michigan is going to happen here, right?
Happening in California right
Well, I think Carolyn's going to address that. But there's did you get my water alert?
now? It made me think, because I don't know how to.
You did get it in the email.
No, I didn't.
I sent out a water alert. It had to do with Marshall County. So Marshall County was infected with a bacteria in the water. Marshall County is right down the road.
Jackson.
Jackson is another incident. Marshall County is Holly Springs. It's right down the road. So if it's happening in Jackson, Flint, what makes y'all think it's not going to happen here? And just in case, and it may not happen here, but just in case, if it does, are you ready? So what Brother Jones and Ms. Bell are going to do is actually talk to you about getting ready. All right?
I'm Carolyn Bell, and I am the National Coordinator for the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists CARET team. CARET stands for Community Action and Response Against Toxics. We started this initiative 20 years ago, as a matter of fact. And at that particular time, and we still do, we have the support of the entire organization of the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists. And we've grown what we do from about 2 or 3 cities, and we now have activities in about 19 to 20 cities. The CARE team has 6 priority issues that we focus on. And I will attempt to name them: air and water quality, solid waste disposal, community-led, brownfields. I think I'm down to as far as I can go. But at any rate, I think they're on the flyers, the handouts that we have for you. And this right here, more or less, is a summary of the CARE team and some of the activities around the country. I brought up the priority issues because from day one, emergency response, that was what I was trying to say. From day one, we recognize that communities of color are not prepared when it comes to emergencies, be they natural emergencies like, storms, tornadoes, earthquakes if we live in the Memphis area, as well as man-made. So now we got to face terrorism as a part of a different kind of terrorism. Let me say that. I have to be clear. As a part of what we did, though, 20 years ago was to start looking at what it was that we could do to try to help get our communities prepared. I honestly can say to you, it has not been until recent years when all of the global warming activity has really gotten underway in a big time fashion that we are finally beginning to focus on that. So we'd like, what this is today is a presentation. This is a presentation on behalf of State Representative Barbara Cooper and the Cooper Jones Initiative. I think the Cooper Jones Initiative is about 14 years old. It started with State Representative Cooper and State Representative Ulysses Jones. And this was their attempt to have or commemorate the assassination of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King here in this city. It was the Cooper Jones Initiative on education, health, and environment. So we kind of rotate. And this year, the presentation is on environment. So the CBTU CARET team is doing that presentation for you. And Dave Jones here, who is the Memphis, he is the facilitator for the Memphis CARET team. He is also a lieutenant with the Memphis Fire Department. He's going to give you some interesting information that he's been able to amass having to do with communities being prepared for emergencies.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First of all, I don't think we've taken the time to thank you all for taking time out of your daily schedule to come out here. The weather has not really been as good as it looked at the beginning of the day. We've had a tremendous rainstorm to come through. I don't know if any of you all got caught in it, but I did. And that's a part of the disaster preparedness. We look at a situation that right now looks good, but just a moment ago, the bottom fell out and high winds. Well, do we think of that as a disaster? Most of the time, no. Until you see right down the road in Holly Springs, Mississippi, you have so much destruction, few people die in a tornado. So what I've been doing with the help of Ms. Bell and Clifford Black through under the umbrella of the Coalition of Black Trade Unions is going around the country training, getting communities, mostly our communities, prepared for disasters of what sort. If it's a Katrina incident where there's some flooding or hurricanes, we work on that. If it's disasters for tornadoes, whatever, blizzards, ice storms in Memphis in '94. Those are the things that the CARET team is designed to do, to take the members in the community, train them, help them respond to their own incidents before 911. I actually, I had a couple people to be invited, but they've not come. The gentleman over there and his daughter, they came for two reasons. One was for his daughter and the learning part of this, as far as education, and then he came to check on the disaster preparedness part of this. And we've been trying very diligently to get as many people of the city of Memphis to come out. I don't know that we really understand what is taking place based on so many other things just being televised. It just doesn't seem to be of a major concern, but it is to some of us. And so I say that to say this. Those of you who are interested in coming to learn about disaster preparedness, there are classes that you can be professionally trained and certified through the Coalition of Black Training Union in Cincinnati. What we do is get you involved in the Memphis community. I am, again, the facilitator for the Memphis chapter. There are chapters all over the country. And we meet. Next month, we'll be meeting in D.C., where we'll be coming together, working on focus groups and talking about what's going on in their city versus what's going on in our city, comparing notes and trying to see what we can do to better our community, to be prepared for whatever it is, finance, education, or disasters. So I first want to offer you the opportunity to take part in that. Also, I want some of you all to join and be members like Kevin Brushaw. We talk not as often as I'd like, but to become a member of the Coalition of Black Trade Unions so that we can have membership, we can begin to build unions back up, because again, we already know divided we fall. And it seems like we've fallen a little bit more than usual, and I think a part of that is that as I look around this room, I'm 52, the average age is going 60 plus. Would you all agree? Now, that's not a bad thing. That just means that you all have been on the planet a little longer than most. But what Martin, Malcolm, and some of those individuals shared is that they were working to change something. And as the change did take place over time, somewhere we just stopped changing things for us. And so I think we're gonna have to do a little bit more changing later to get these little ones up here. Because I'm already at the halfway point of 100, so I'm sliding down as opposed to going up. And I think it's very vital that we bring our grandkids, our kids, and some of our children to these type of activities so we can get them informed. Not to go and try to start nothing new. We got something new. As he stated, we have CBTU, you got the Coalition Black Trade Union, you got the NAACP. These organizations have been here at least as long as I've been here. And interesting enough, two of the people that have mentioned doing this Black history and doing this Martin Luther King celebration is always Malcolm and Martin. And I know you all know, Mr. Williams, I remember coming to your office as a teenager with Danny Drew, if you remember him. And so I was young, but I didn't understand. Now at 52, I'm connecting the dots. That's too late, too slow. And so those individuals didn't even get to make 40 years. And they did something very, very dramatic that helped. So I think we can get started as young as 5, 6, 7, to be able to spell some of those words. I mean, I don't think I spelled those words until I was in high school, but I didn't study, I didn't apply myself, I didn't practice, and I didn't have someone like Dr. Black to break a lot of these things down to me, but not only me, to my parents who didn't get a high school diploma. And I didn't find that out till 3 years ago. And so it's bigger than just this room, is what I'm getting at. So again, take these pamphlets. If you don't want them, at least share them with someone else and let them see what we are doing in our city. Ms. Bell will be talking about a little bit more about the water contamination and some other things that's going on. But I strictly want to just talk about, again, we deal with going around the country. What I've also been effective at doing is kind of getting some of the elders to realize you got to pass that baton. Whether you want to or not, you got to pass that baton, because we're transitioning, or we're ascending from death life to spiritual life. And by the time we figure it out, it's too late. And nobody has that desire or that passion and want to suffer for the team. But I've been going to Jackson, I've been to Cincinnati, trying to get to the northern coast. And what we generally do, we go out, we give class on fracking. We may have a class on hazardous material where we teach the community people how to be able to go outside if there's an incident, a truck blow up, or they see something or smell something. And from where they are, please don't rush in. Try to assess the scene before you call 911. Calling 911, police or fire. That's who's going to be called. And tell me what you see, or tell that operator what you see. Okay, that's normally what we do in a way. We got a fire, they shooting or whatever, but they don't see everything else. I see a truck. There's a placard on the side of the truck. What's the number on the truck? Do you have a ERG book? That means an emergency response guide. And what it does will allow you to look at that number, identify the placard, and then, oh, that's that chemical. Oh, that chemical said, I ain't supposed to be breathing that. What's the wind doing? Oh, it's high wind. Is the wind coming at me? Is the wind going away from me? Those are the kinds of things I think that if we do that in our community, we can take care of ourselves. We always did prior to some things changing. We never really looked for nobody because wasn't nobody coming. That wasn't a bad thing. It's just that because of the issues that the country was going through, You on your side of the fence, and I'm on my, and I gotta survive the best way I can. And somehow we just forgot to pass that to the little ones. We've been doing this. This ain't nothing new. My grandfather had 77 acres. I didn't know playing on them 77 acres would allow me to learn a lot of things about the earth and self-preservation, like the water again. Don't put that oil in the earth because you don't need to eat out of the earth. But we're doing a lot of contaminating things ourselves. We're not paying attention to our home, the environment. So at the end of this, if there are any questions, I want you to ask me, myself, Carolyn, Dr. Bell, get some phone numbers, email address. Let's make a movement of this thing. Let's see if we can get some people ignited and fired up to be wanting to be trained. So that if there's a situation in their own neighborhood, how many of you all by chance, and I'm rambling just a little bit, slowing down, have generators at home? So we got 2, 3, oh, Mr. Allen, I know you got everything. Okay, now my question to that, when was the last time you started?
About a month ago.
And was there a reason?
Yeah, I'm in the construction business.
Okay, sir. So you started doing it a while?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Now, well, the reason I ask that, this goes back to disaster preparedness or just preparedness. Bobby, I'll refer to him as Bobby, but he drives, we work together, and I'm the lieutenant. But what happens when the electricity goes out, quite often somebody hit a pole. It doesn't have to be cold or hot, somebody hit a pole, but this area is out of power. Your mother or whoever is on oxygen. Well, the machine don't work because we don't have any electricity. Well, they'll call 911. Well, when they call, they're calling me. I'm on the truck company. I'm just kind of educating. I think this will help. So we tell other folks. So you said, well, we need a generator so that my mother can breathe. Basically, that's what we're talking about. Well, we don't have any because I just took the first 2 we had and somebody called before you. We only had 2. And you're irate because you think that the people on the phone are ignoring you or not concerned for your relative. But the truth is, you know what finances problem we're having right now. There's only a few in the city of Memphis, and once they've already been issued out, there are no more. For however long the outage is, and whoever that is having oxygen problems, how long are they distressed? Well, I tend to think we may not really understand what it is we're doing. Everybody has a cell phone. Probably if you pay cost for them, they $300 to $500. Would we agree?
Yeah.
Well, that's your generator. That's the thing that's gonna save some of us. And if it were another situation where it's cold, you could store your meat if you plug the freezer up. If the communities got back together where we shared a cup of sugar and coffee, we could just have that house for all the stored foods and dry goods. Over here, we can have other area over here where we have our weapons to keep our community tight. We can have our tools here, like a saw, chainsaw, in case somebody tree fell like it did a couple of days ago on top of some people up north. These things are gonna continue to happen. There's no way around them. Nature rules. Murphy's Law rules. So I'm saying to you that I would offer you to come in, assist me in training our community. We're not in a rush, but at this point, Kevin, I'd like for you to start as soon as you can to maybe come in, speak with me, try to get some training, because you got a whole lot of people at Catalog that I know just will follow you based on understand what you just did with the strike and all of this. Well, that's the same thing. That's the united we stand part. And until we do that, I don't know, and I'm not one of these people that hope. So if you see me in the streets and they say, well, he don't like the hope. No, I don't believe hope works for what we trying to do. I think getting off the couch, picking up something, practicing what you preach works better. So those are the things that I've been doing so far. Ms. Bell is going to talk about the water and some of the other things that we deal with. At the end, if you have some questions, I'll break it down further.
Could you just elaborate a little bit about he's making reference to the classes?
Well, the classes I'm speaking of, they take place in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Or in wherever.
Or here, forgive me. The classes can take place in any city. What we do is generally somebody will come and say that we'd like to have a class brought to our town to train some people in our community. And if you do have a certain amount, generally try to have 10 or more, so it's not large classes. A facility as such, not run down, proper lighting, air heat if the temperature is a problem, and audio, so that they can present a decent class. Sometimes the class may last a week. We want the people that want to participate for the whole time that the class, so they can get the whole program. It's not a joke. They're spending money because they're not asking you for 1 cent. They're not really asking you for anything but yourself and to be attentive to what it is that they're offering. And if you know of anybody that may want a class right now, get that information to me. We'll put that class together. Some of the classes, again, hazardous material, has Whopper, disaster preparedness. And when I said that, mold remediation, where you have some of these older homes that have a lot of water damage and they've been, mold building up and nobody has checked the facilities and people are breathing that in and causing them some respiratory problems. So you can have that class brought to you and trained, and then you can begin to do some going around the city and maybe alleviating some of these mold situations we have too. So if you think of anyone that would be interested, churches, schools, even some of these classes that people have at night, senior citizens, but we would prefer to have some youth because we don't want to have to depend on most of the people at a certain age doing a lot of this based on we need some youth becoming active. Yes, Al.
So these 1 day classes,
Most of the time they're not 1 day classes. Most of the time they're minimum 3 to 5.
3 to 5 days.
Yes, and they generally are 8-hour classes. And you get certified, federally certified. So once you finish your class, you will be certified. Sir?
Yes, sir. You said hazardous material,
That's one.
disaster relief,
Yes.
and mold removal.
That's what it is. Mold remediation is what it's
Mold
called.
remediation. Okay,
Yes.
now, each one has its own entity. In other words, this
It's
is
a separate class
Separate
where you would strictly deal with that particular information, and that class will encompass everything about that.
Now, should you choose one, okay, in other words, you might do one class and then you come back for another class and then another class.
There's no limit. If you want to take all the classes, you're welcome to take all the classes. All that we ask is if you take the classes, go out and present the information. Bring in some more people so when you're replacing yourself. So for every person we get, we like them to bring 3. So that way we're spreading out, we're taking care of what we're talking about. Community, we're prepared. You about that something?
Who pays for the classes?
Okay, well,
If he wanted to go, who would pay him to go to Cincinnati?
well,
Or he'll pay for himself?
good. This goes back to the Coalition of Black Trade Unions. They are in a conglomerate of other unions that go and work with the International Chemical Workers out of Cincinnati. And they pay for the classes. You pay for nothing. Now, after that, you may very well want to become an instructor. You could find yourself making a little bit of change, but you won't make a living. But again, what we're asking is that you go out, do what I'm doing, and go out and train. And you can take in all the classes they are offering. You have the option to take it. The more classes you take, the more information you have to share.
You have that membership card?
Yes, membership cards on the table. I don't want to just give them out and they just get thrown away. I'd like everybody to become a member. So if you would hold your hand up or ask me, I would give you one and you sign in that way.
Becoming a member of the Memphis Carolyn team.
You going to say something?
No, okay, she answered it. Cause I'm a member, but not really a member. I'm an active member of Copper.
Okay.
So, I do attend Copper meetings. I have attended Copper meetings. This is Carolyn. So this is under the sub, under
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 the
the union,
coalition
under
of black
coalition.
trade unions.
But again, what we talked about, and I'm sure you heard me, but I want to make sure we're clear. When Dr. Black was talking about one union versus another union, we're not trying to bump heads. What we're trying to do is to get a union to become active and to do some work. And so we can collectively begin to change some things in our communities and not look for people to be coming when they're coming. We saw this with Katrina. I don't like to bring it up. I think it was 2005. But to this day, we still talking about they didn't come. We still talking about that. It's time for us to stop looking for anybody to come. Because if you take care of yourself, if you mind your business, and mind your business don't start right now. The older folk taught me that along with the whoopings. What they were saying, or what I gathered, is that they were saying, be proactive. Get your stuff together here, so when it hit, you already been ready for this. So that's what I'm saying when I say that. Let's be proactive. So when it does happen, and it's gonna happen. I hate to say that, but I see it every day in the line of work that I do. So
I would agree. We had that ice storm back in, when it was
94.
94. I had heat, I had water, I had my generator. You know, so, but everybody else wasn't. You know, ice knocked out power and trees were popping and everything. I helped some people, you know, that needed help. It's coming again.
and what you said is what I want to hear. But what if we had 3-4 more stories, 3-4 more generators? Miss June, that's my mother, who's now in her 70s because her son's in his 50s, needed some help. I couldn't get to her because I'm over here helping your mother because I'm doing what the city does. I can't leave and go take care of my most precious, person. My mother, they say that's abandoned. I understand that. So now I know somebody over there has already put together a plan for that community, and I ain't got to worry about it because I saw them put the plan together. They got generators, they got saws. Somebody knocked them. Miss June, you okay? It's cold. Come on over here with us. That's the stuff that I watched us do in the 60s. We just wouldn't leave nobody. And I know we kind of getting away from what I'm saying, but I just would like to see some of the old school stuff that work be implemented in our communities. I'm not moving too far. I can't afford the city pays me.
And Dave and I have, I don't want to say there's a fundamental difference because we don't. But I'm looking now to bring high-tech solutions to the table that will help us to be able to first prepare and then respond if a disaster occurs. So we just did, if you want to hear more about the kinds of things that we were talking about having to do with disaster preparedness, go to the CARAT Team website, CARATTEAM.org. And there is an hour, almost a 2-hour video up on a focus group that we conducted about 6 weeks to 2 months ago. And what we were trying to do in that focus group, well, let's talk about the innovative and creative kinds of things that we can come up, that we can do, because while I love Dave to death and his generator and everybody get a generator, we know what Homeboy and them are gonna do over here. They don't have the generator, you got one. So that becomes an issue for you because they are going to take your generator. We know this already. So, I'm sorry?
We should know it.
Yeah, we should know this. So another issue, for example, is the Red Cross and FEMA. They have all kinds of guidelines and recommendations out there for us to pursue or follow. But in most instances, when I first started looking at this and reading the list, I was like, dog, I got no money, I can't buy this. And he's saying, that we need to prioritize. I understand that because I'll take some dollars and go over here and throw them away. But at the same time, in reality, if you're telling me to have a 90-day supply of my meds on hand at all time, and of course, Obamacare has helped out quite a bit now, but, hey, it gets a little difficult to pay for that medicine if you got a lot of meds. So I am suggesting now that we need to be smart enough and innovative enough and creative enough. We've got young people now. We've got, where Guido, Al, and Catherine are not here. Young man graduated Christian Brothers 2 years ago, civil engineering degree. Smart as a whip. We're talking about, in the focus group, we talked about drones. You know, the whole possibility of, we're talking about community shelters being put in place and bunkers, a network of bunkers, one over here, and one over here, and one over here. And then if we could look at the drone technology. If Miss June, whoever he just said, needed, you know, food, or she needed whatever, we might have to do that. But let me say this, Dave. Shep here is an architect. MIT architect? Really, that's a serious degree in architect from MIT. So this is a person who knows about planning. So this is a person that if we could entice him to come and be a part of the Memphis Care team, and we know Shep is very, very busy, but Shep has a lot of information that he could help to bring to the table to help us. And so ultimately what we're doing right now is, and I decided to take this task on. Nobody told me to do that. Mr. Lucy didn't say you have to do this, or neither did Terry. What's Terry's last name? He's just so new, the president.
Milton.
Terry Melvin, I'm sorry. And I said to my friends earlier, I know what I am, I've gotten to the position of what I can't do. And one of them is having to rely on my memory, because it comes and it goes. I know Terry Melvin quite well, as a matter of fact. But anyway, if we can start thinking alternatively, that's all I'm talking about right now. We want to mix. He talked about the old. I don't know that we are going to ever be able to return to those days. But I think that we could come up with a modification of it and throw some new technology in, and actually really end up doing something really fantastic. And when we finish with this process, we've got the care teams in the different cities doing focus groups. I want ideas, new ideas. And we're going to put them all in a publication, and we're going to send it over to FEMA and say, this is what we think, or what the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists thinks that we can do as alternatives to be prepared in our communities, because we already know we don't have the resources, we don't have the money, we don't have a lot of things that we need in order to follow those or be in compliance with those Red Cross guidelines and those FEMA guidelines. But as David said, we're smart enough. We're smart enough to figure out a whole lot of stuff. We just need to do it. That's it, though. Charlotte is sitting over there. We talked a minute ago before she came in the room. That's Charlotte Johnson. And she would be the person who kept Charlotte. We talked about Kevin becoming the new president of CBTU. Charlotte is the secretary. So we've got all the elements here to make this happen, is what I'm saying. So wanted just everybody to see Charlotte and know who she is. Chuck Taylor just came in the room. AT&T. Ooh, I got the questions and wishes for you today, Chuck. Thank you so much for being here. But Chuck and I talked recently about free Wi-Fi in low-income communities. And so he knows I'm going to hit him with something. I promise you'll be able to do it, though, Chuck. But he's the AT&T Community Relations Director for the West Tennessee region.
Yes, ma'am.
And he has been extremely supportive of State Representative Cooper and the kinds of things that she's been doing. So we certainly want to acknowledge Chuck and thank him for all the support he's given us. Now, today, and I'm going to try, believe it or not, y'all, I put together 64 slides. And what I realized when Dave was presenting a minute ago, and Tony's back there. We need to say, hey, Tony, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a bunch of Sunday church. One of the pioneers in the community who has tried to make sure that we learn as much as we can about ourselves. Thank you for coming, Tony. In the meantime, I was asked the question, when Ms. Cooper said, well, what are we going to do this year? I said, well, I'll just get up and do a presentation on the environment. Just so you'll know that I'm just not up here talking. I do know a little bit, or have a little bit of a background. I have a couple of degrees in environmental health. And as Cliff always says, she has degrees from America's finest universities. And if he asks me what does environment mean, give me the etymological origin of environment, I'm going to be in trouble, okay? So I'm just wanting you to know that it's got its limitations for sure. But I worked for 5 years when I attained the degree in environmental health. I worked for 5 years as what's called an industrial hygienist. And I worked for the United Rubber Workers International Union. So I went all over the United States and Canada, going into workplaces and walking in and telling workers about hazards that they were exposed to in the workplace and the kinds of things that they needed to do to clean up the workplace. And I was sharing with somebody the other day, we were talking about it. They were presenting a similar scenario to me. And I was saying, yeah, I remember towards the end, first of all, Firestone here in Memphis was the last plant that I actually did an inspection of. And then I left that particular job. But I remember the guys down here in, I think there was a Mohawk plant in Helena, Arkansas, West Helena, Arkansas. I believe it was Mohawk. Some of the older folks in the room remember Mohawk tire and rubber. And anyway, I was in there and I was talking to the workers about the hazards that they were exposed to, and I was telling them, you know, how it could shorten their lifespans, and they needed to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And so they were sitting there looking at me like I was crazy, and I was like, well, you know, I'm giving them, I'm a young whippersnapper too. I thought I really, you know, had going on. And they said, they were looking, and finally I said, well, why are y'all looking at me like that? They said, we like working in here. I said, but I'm telling you, these are cancer-producing chemicals in here, and you could possibly expose yourself to these chemicals. And they said, but we've been in here for 20 years already, so what difference is it gonna make if, you know, we leave now and we like our friends and whatever? So you know, you run into all kinds of scenarios. I was on a wildcat strike one night, believe it or not. And these are issues that I hope I get a chance to talk about in the presentation. I'm somewhere between teaching a class and giving you information and just trying to do awareness. I don't want to overkill you with a lot of stuff, which is what I tend to do. But at any rate, I was on a wildcat strike one night. And understand something now, I was what was called professional help. I was professional hired help for the union. I was not a union member myself. Did not know anything about AFL-CIO except what the letter stood for, and I learned that in the 7th grade civics class. Need to bring civics back into the schools, by the way. But anyway, so the issue was about exposure to a very high potent cancer-producing chemical called vinyl chloride. It was a gas. Vinyl chloride at the time was used in over 50% of the plastics products that were made in the entire world. And it caused a deadly liver cancer, angiosarcoma of the liver is what it was called. And the workers, I was there on behalf of them, and I've never been so scared in all of my life, and I'm telling you the truth. This is one of the harrowing moments of my life. I get to the door, first of all, the president of the union picks me up in a little twin-engine plane at the Philadelphia airport and flew me up to Reading, Pennsylvania, which is where Washington crossed to Delaware. There's a whole lot of history up in there. So I'm roaming around, and first of all, I'm scared to death. I'm in the plane, and then we land, and then we get to the plant. And when I get to the door of the Firestone Tire and Rubber Company plant, plastics division, there's this man who was like 7 feet tall, literally 7 feet tall. He was the president of the Firestone Tire and Rubber, the plastics division of Firestone Tire and Rubber. And he said, you can't come in here. I said, well, you know, and I'm like, okay, if you say so, Mr. Hireman, I knew who he was. And the president of the union said, wait a minute, and they get into it, and they going at it, and I'm in it by now. I'm trying to figure out which way am I going to run to or whatever. But the issue was, I was a woman of childbearing age. The chemical that we were talking about caused a type of cancer. It caused cancer, yeah, but it also had what's known as mutagenic effects or teratogenic effects, which means that it could, if that's right, formative. If it was a teratogen, which, where's Dr. Black? Terato means monster in Greek or whatever. So you could have something wrong with the child, or either you could pass on something that would allow the child to miscarry, as Al has indicated. So having said that, the issue really was political, maybe more than it was anything else, because they didn't want to switch over to give women the kinds of jobs that men had, even though women had those jobs during World War II when the men were away at war. So clearly we could do the jobs, but the issue was the lockout of women from having certain kinds of jobs in industrial operation. And so that was his premise for why I couldn't go in the plant. Eventually they worked it out, and then when we get in there, the workers that I'm there to represent are saying they don't want to wear the half-face piece respirators because management didn't have to wear them. I'm like, just because they getting that dose of cancer, and you want yours too? And they go, yes, ma'am, because they felt like they were being discriminated against. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background of what I did for 5 years of my life, and then I moved on, came to Memphis, and hey, I've been floundering ever since, but I'm doing the best that I can. So let's go. What's in your water? My title is very misleading because, and that came about obviously because of the Flint. If we could have the lights be lowered just a little bit, you can see Flint water plant written on that tower right there. What Dave didn't mention is the fact that we just finished. The CARET team just finished doing a class in Flint, Michigan for community members there regarding what to do to rid their water supply of the lead that community is being exposed to.
Nice.
I say this is a little tongue in cheek. The title is What's in Your Water? Because I have always said to all my friends, we're putting the filtration devices on the water, and they were buying this and buying that, and I would always say, if you breathe the air, you might as well drink the water, because there is so much chemical contamination out here in this industrialized world that we live in. And then we got folks over in, and I dare not say third world country. I have not, and the class knows me, that's something I still have not come up with, another reference to something other than calling people from countries that are less prosperous than this one, particularly where people come from that look like me, calling them a third world country. But they are beginning now to allow, not beginning, they've been doing it for a while, receiving the waste from this country. The people, the administrators that are running the country, they're receiving the waste from this country and allowing it to be dumped in their country and polluting their rivers and their streams, and it just goes on and on. That is literally going on in the world. So we have to be really careful now, because while we say industrialized countries are where the chemicals are, but in reality, you're beginning to get them in other countries as well.
Toxic and nuclear.
Toxic, Al is contributing by saying toxic waste having to do with organic chemicals as well as nuclear waste. This is being buried in Nigeria and the west coast of Africa and South America. This is going on literally.
And in the United States.
I'm saying it is in the United States, but remember years ago when they had the barge out there
Coming out of New York.
coming out of New York,
Going
and it
to
had
South
nowhere to
America.
go because it couldn't find a port or whatever to drop the waste in. That is about the time that the other countries now started to take our waste and our garbage, and is now polluting their countries because we pay them a tip. That's what it's called, a tipping fee.
In this picture, you got the water plant there, and if you look behind it, you see two electrical towers there. Each one of those wires on each one of those towers is carrying over 500,000 volts. And that EMF magnetic frequency is going into that water and causing it to be a cancer agent. Just being that close to that tower all the time.
Probably 200 feet, right?
Huh?
It's supposed to be 200 feet.
That's
from
the
anything.
minimum, and that's for cows.
Okay.
And Al, the closest that I've come to that scenario is right up here at, right behind Hamilton High School. If you are, the Defense Depot is right here. And if you just come down the hill from the back of the Defense Depot across Perry Road, is that Perry Road? Just keep coming, you're right, Kellogg's is right there. Keep coming, come on down, and it's you're sloping down, and you're gonna end up at Hamilton High School. And in between Hamilton and the Defense Depot, you got those fellows right there.
They going straight through the black community all the way through Memphis. They borderline like the railroad used to separate blacks and whites. That's where it is. Those high tension lines is what they call them, high tension towers. They'll run it all the way through the black community. They go all the way down Florida Street and all the way around through the black. Bingham, that's right, all the black community.
And in my tenure with the union, I've had the opportunity to rub shoulders with and be interactive with the researchers across the country that were establishing the associations between health effects and exposures either to chemicals or to radiation or what have you. And I was with one of the most eminent persons in the country. I don't know where he is. I haven't heard from him in years, but he was one of the first ones that was able to establish the relationship, because for years the Reagan administration argued that there was no association between low-level exposures of radiation and cancer or whatever. And then about 10 or 15 years after they finished arguing, of course, they had to change it and recognize that there was an association.
But it was against the law for that water tower to be that close to the detention lines. One or the other should not have been there.
Okay.
That's already against the
I
law.
have a question. Going back to Flint, and then as a commercial developer experiences in Memphis, is the lead contamination from the deterioration of the pipe
Yes.
itself, or is there another source of the lead?
It comes, the pipes are going to, lead pipes
They're
are
over
gonna
100 years
deteriorate
old throughout the-
over 100 years.
That's right, they're over 100 years old.
And this problem with lead in our pipes across the country, you've heard people talking about we need to do something about our infrastructure for the last 20 years. What they're really talking about is all of these old lead pipes that used to carry our water are decaying.
And it's not just the lead pipes carrying the water, the bridges.
Yeah.
Now that's the one that I worry about.
Bridges, overpasses, but all of our infrastructure. But I make that point to say everywhere you hear now that they're talking about lead in our water, it could literally be every city in America where they had lead piping carrying our water. In the 1800s.
It literally
And
Is
is.
it going to
City in America.
is the lead going to the aquifer?
No.
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 Okay, but the pipes that pull it out of the aquifer
Yes.
are
When it flows
deteriorating.
through, yeah, when it flows through, those pipes are deteriorating.
Gotcha.
And the way the cities are getting around it is they're saying, okay, we've gone back and we're doing stuff with the pipe in the street, but the tap from the street to your house is
where
the same lead.
lead.
So even if it gets there and it's clear, when it gets to the tap to your house, it's going through a lead pipe.
And you have to be very careful, because there are products now that they are saying are lead free, and they still got 8%, 10%, 15% lead in them, but they're being sold and marketed as lead free. But on the comment about to dovetail what Shep just said about the corrosion in the pipes, the situation in Flint was this. They were getting their water from the Detroit River. And then somebody, and they're right now still arguing over who made the actual decision, because that's the one that's gonna,
The financial manager.
huh?
The financial manager.
Whoever made the decision, but the governor
The
somehow.
governor appointed the financial manager.
Is involved. But the water from the Flint River was more acidic. It had a higher acid content in it than the water from the Detroit River.
A lower pH.
Huh?
A lower
It had a
pH.
lower pH. pH of water normal is 7.
7.6.
So anything
3
below
times.
7 becomes acidic, and it's alkaline as it goes above 7. So anyway, that is literally what happened in Flint, Michigan. And the criminal part of it, though, is that it took or is it General Motors? Who's the auto plant that's there? They're the ones that, the people have been saying, look, there's something going on, there's a problem, the water is this color, is that what, da 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 da, and nothing really happened until that auto plant said it was corroding their engines on the cars or the whatever vehicles that they were making. And then a doctor by the name of Mona, her name is Dr. Mona Hannah something, but she's at Hurley Medical Center in Flint, and she was able to show that she had to retroactively go back and look at the medical records of the children. Excuse me, she's a pediatrician. The children that had come through the hospital for whatever the reason, and when they drew blood from them for whatever the reason, because she had an environmental slant to her training, she was having them to assay their blood for lead. And so she was able to show the escalation of the lead, the amount of lead in the blood of the children that lived in the Flint, Michigan, and that's what triggered finally the governor to make a move. But it took 2 or 3 years for them to get to that point. It was her study. And even when the auto plant said you corrode our engine, that's okay. It's just, y'all that's being exposed to this, so it doesn't matter. But I'll be up here talking all night, and I obviously can't go through all these slides. But let me keep going. What's in your water? And I said a minute ago I was being facetious when I said what's in your water, because toxic substances are ubiquitous. They are in your water, they're in the air, they're in the soil, they're in the food, they're in the products that you consume on a daily basis. And he's saying they're in the rain because as the stuff volatilizes and vaporizes and goes up and comes back down. There's a Creek Indian proverb. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I did, and I had just met Clifford Black, that's why I'm laughing about it. I wrote a book called The Environment in Small Doses, a layperson's guide to understanding toxic substances. And on the cover of that book is a tree. And the quote under the tree says, "And the trees shall lose their leaves from the top down." And it was a Creek Indian proverb. And so it looks like whatever they projected, they saw, predicted, whatever you want to call it or whatever, it actually is happening now, because that's what you got. Sulfuric acid coming from the cars and whatever going up, come back down and hit the tree in the top of it, and there it goes. Okay, next slide, tomorrow. Common forms of toxic substances. We talk a lot about chemicals, but toxic substances can also be biological, and they can be physical. You can have chemical hazards, you can have biological hazards, you can have physical hazards. There's an array of different kinds of hazards you can have, but those are the major 3. We're going to come back to that later on. One of the things, and what I'm trying to do today, is to just give you a general idea of all that actually goes in to monitor anything, and some of the major environmental acts. It'll take literally, when you say it takes an act of Congress, it takes an act of Congress. It took a whole lot of labor union now, and Kevin and Charlotte and who's else big union person in this room. We got to do something. We got to bring that back. And I guess once we get past the $15 an hour minimum wage, then maybe there'll be somebody who's ready to actually step up to the table and say something. But at the end of the day, those acts, those major acts, you see the years 1970, 1972, 1965, 1980, 1976, those acts were really done not because the same House dominated, I don't want to be politically partisan, but the same ones that are now saying they wouldn't give President Obama the money to, Shep, what did you just say, to rebuild the infrastructure, they didn't want to pass these acts either. And they don't want to deal with global warming today because they're saying it's something made up. Bottom line is Clean Water Act in 1970, Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act deals with, the Air Act deals with emissions into the air. It's kind of self-explanatory. Water Discharge of Pollutants into Waters, Toxic Substances Control Act, 1976. This was in my heyday. And we were so excited as union people that we had that act because what it finally said was you can't put a new substance on the table unless you test it for its toxicity. I have no idea as to how well that act is being how the provisions of it are being carried out. I don't know. All I know is that there were already 2 or 3 million substances already in play at the time, and you were getting another 50 or 60,000 of them a day added to what already existed. So it was really kind of it was very difficult, but we were happy to get just that little bit of movement or momentum. This was always my favorite, FIFRA, Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act. So about that time, they were beginning to recognize that there was a whole lot going on with the pesticides and the insecticides, and those things would kill you, just like the stuff that was in the plant. You out there spraying it in your yard or spraying it on your crops if you're a farmer, and you get the runoff from the land. If you're the farmer, spraying it on your crops, and it's going to run over here, run down the hill, and it's going to be in your yard before you know it.
Right after that, in '76, the Toxic Substance Control Act and the FIFRA is when all these chemical companies left Memphis and left all the big cities in the United States. They went basically underground. I don't know where they are now, making
India?
all this stuff. But yeah, some of them went to India and like to
Are
kill
you
all
saying
of
it
it.
happened in 1976? Are you sure? Because I thought that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton drove the businesses out of the country.
No, that's when it started. You know, we lost Velsical, Grace,
Right.
all them chemicals. They started.
Somebody
Vesical.
remembers. And the
Vesical.
reason why I'm being tongue-in-cheek about it is because about that time when I went to work for the union already had in place provisions for workers who were being displaced because the plants were shutting down, and they were shutting down because they were old and they were outdated and they needed to be rebuilt. So they would either build a new one and then come down here to Tennessee, Arkansas, and Mississippi and build a plant, and it had asbestos, or they would go out of the country. And that started a long time ago.
Yeah.
They already had what's the COLA? No, that's cost of living. They had something else in place to deal with that then.
But not to change the subject, but is anybody aware, I mean, how many brownfields do we have? I mean, EPA
Don't nobody know.
designated brownfields, because when you really look at the history of this stuff, some of this stuff goes back to the 1890s
Yeah.
that was buried in lots
Yeah.
that are highly toxic that we don't even know about.
This last one, the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act, it's called CERCLA. That's the Superfund Act. That was the act that created brownfields. That was in 1980.
Okay.
And the intent was, what he just said is you had so many contaminated properties and nobody really knew who the perpetrator was. So they came up with Superfund, which the corporations in the country had to all contribute to a fund so that when they could not find a principal
PVC.
responsible, PRP, principal
PRP.
responsible party, then they could take the money out of the fund in order to clean up the site. But just let me just comment about Superfund, and it's interesting Booker would bring up brownfields, and Cliff has talked about economic development, because that's something that we never took advantage of.
That's right.
The fact that the federal government had dollars out there that were guaranteed, they would guarantee a municipality to make a loan to a business person if they took a piece of property, a brownfield, and turned it into a green field. But we never did that. And I remember
Is the money still there?
they made some provisions because what was happening is what I'm getting ready to share with you. How many have been to Chicago lately? City, downtown Chicago. Gorgeous. All the way down Lakeshore Drive, starting at the South Loop and going all the way down. Now, nobody has told me this, but I know that they got that money from brownfield. That's what they did. And I get put out a lot of stuff. I was serving on the Black Caucus, let me see, the Environmental Justice Commission for the U.S. Congressional Black Caucus. So we were the commission, and we would go all over the country to, major cities, and we would hear people tell us about whatever their environmental justice issues were and whatever. So this little hotshot presenter from Chicago came, and he's the city of Chicago. He's over brownfields, and he's just telling us all the great stuff that's going on. So I asked him, I said, well, how many minority contractors do you have involved? Oh, we've got this, that, and that. Well, where the minority contractors ended up under that piece was the cleanup piece.
Sewer contract.
You could come in and clean up and, clear the ground or whatever, but when it came to the development of the actual businesses, then that became a non, the door. And so I pressed the guy and made him tell me that, and the rest of the people, believe it or not, I think we were about 5 or 6 of us on the commission, and they all got mad at me because I pressed, somebody that was pressed. But the problem is that it never really, we never took advantage of it. And Booker, if you are interested, I would be happy to help you to get to people who can. I tried. I had a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, who's a businessman in Chicago. He's from Memphis, from over here around. Went to the Keel Avenue Baptist Church. Name is Benny Payne. But I tried to get Benny to get involved in getting some brownfield money out of Chicago. He didn't do
You got the Army Depot was a brownfield.
Oh,
exactly.
Hollywood and Chelsea, it was a brownfield.
Have they done any development at the
And they got them
Hollywood?
fenced off. They got Hollywood still fenced off.
It's a brownfield, but there's no development going on. What, Chip?
The Hollywood dump is a whole story unto itself.
right.
All right, and I can give you the history of a lot of stuff that happened. I was on the city council when that came down. They remediated it supposedly, and they did what they did. I'll just say the city council and the city of Memphis all joined together with Bessie Carl and all of them
Let 'em out
to do 6 inches of dirt.
On top of
6 inches of dirt on top of the dump. And basically, everybody agreed except for me. The city council voted 12-1. I was the one to do that. And everything that was there, all they did was dig out 6 inches of dirt and put 6 inches of new dirt. Now, what I'm saying is the reason why you can't get remediation for it is because technically they've already done
the remediation.
some remediation, but the remediation wasn't anything.
Well,
Shep, where we want to go with it is the development.
Right,
of
but they gotta first clean it up. They never
so
cleaned
you
it up
cleaned it up.
accurately in the first place.
and-
That's my point.
They said we have to leave this building at 7:30, so
Okay.
it's 6:30 now.
Okay.
I mean 7 o'clock, I'm sorry. So we don't have a lot of time, but at least I have to put this on the table. I was at Memphis Health Center. I coordinated the health study that took place among the people who lived around the Hollywood dump to see if there were any differentiations in their health compared to a control community that we did out here in South Memphis. But it was a whole lot that went on. Of course, y'all know Brother Green, Brother N.T. Green, the notorious Brother N.T. Green. You brought up an issue. You asked, was that you that just asked me about the Cypress Creek, the leak? Somebody asked me when it's in the news right now. How about, let me just run down through this. We got to skip all of this. I told you, I'm somewhere between teaching a class and creating awareness. This is teaching a class. But you really do need to know about routes of entry, target organs, explain how the body handles chemical exposures. Keep going. And I'll just comment on this, dose-response relationship. Just because there is an exposure does not necessarily mean that you are being contaminated. You have to get a dosage of it, and you got to get it into your body some kind of way. And I'll say this while I'm thinking about it. One of the major issues, one of the real problems that we've run into in the research community is the fact that in order for you to establish that something caused a problem, a specific health effect, you almost have to have it isolated in order to say that this chemical caused this problem. But in reality, you got so many different things all mixed up together, and then when they come together, you got reactions, and then you got something altogether different from what you started with, so it becomes very difficult, this particular science that we're running through. Keep going. Then you got things like acute and chronic health effects. So you got something that could overwhelm you and take you out like that, like what? Cyanide. You get you a drop of cyanide, and you out of here. Well, chlorine will get you if you. I saw somebody get trapped in handling a chlorine tank inside of an encasing or whatever, and the only way their lives were saved because they fell into the window broke, and they were able to get some oxygen. But anyway, keep going. Toxicology is the study of the nature and actions of chemicals in the body. Y'all come back another time and we'll do this. Keep going. We talked about the potency dose response. So what you would think is the higher the dose, the greater the response, but not necessarily and not all the time. You can have low doses of chemicals that are very potent that will now will cause you greater harm than a higher dose of something else. Let's go. Anyway, they got all kinds of formulations that you can find out about. Keep going. Health effects, they can be acute or they can be chronic. So you can have something that happens to you momentarily, like you start sneezing, you break out in a rash, you do this, you do that. But you can have chronic effects. Keep next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Over long periods of time, exposure over long periods of time, that's called chronic effect. Okay, how do you get stuff into your body? Here's a major one. There are 4 major ones, pretty much. Ingestion. So you got the hamburger over here, glass of water, lipstick, that's what that is, and cigarettes. So if you handling toxic chemicals, or if you got something that's sitting there, like this was classic in the workplace, you bring your lunch in, your lunch sitting here, whatever is dropping down from whatever is falling on your hamburger or your this or your that, so you need to keep going. Next slide. Marcus. Injection. Now this one is a new one for me, but they are basically saying now that sharp objects, they got that one is difficult. High pressure water line. I figure you get hit with a high pressure water line, that'd be more.
Some injection.
Okay, very dangerous. They're saying because it allows the toxin to go directly to the circulatory system. Not only that, it'll decimate you with a high water line. Next slide. Absorption. So what did we just say? Ingestion, injection, absorption. So through your skin. So solvents are real good for that. Any kind of solvent, if you get on your skin or whatever, it can just melt that layer of fat that's right. That layer of fat that's under under your epidermis, and it'll just melt it and take it right. And it goes right on into the blood supply through the skin. Inhalation. And this is a big one, and this is the one that's very common. So really, the 2 most common ones are, you breathe something in, it goes through your lungs, the alveoli in the lungs, the air sacs or whatever, and gases exchange there, and it gets in your bloodstream, and then it travels throughout your body. Keep going. Then you have forms of chemicals that can be inhaled. You got dust, keep going tomorrow, I'm sorry. Vapors, dust, gases, mist, fumes, fibers. Fiber, which one is big? What's the big fiber disease that you know? Asbestos. What can the body do with the chemicals? They either metabolize them, they store them, or they excrete them. Now, this I wanted to hold right there for one reason. Memphis is the fattest city in the country. I have done first lick of research, nothing. But I know this, that there's too much pancreatitis, there's too much pancreatic cancer, there's too much obesity, diabetes, that's it, the 4 ones. Now, something as far as having to do with that top word, metabolism, somewhere in that interplay between your liver, your small intestine, your pancreas, something is going awry. Well, there are a group of chemicals going Marcus. Okay, they're talking about organs that are affected, and basically it's all of them. Let's keep going. Skin, central nervous system, neurotoxin. Neurotoxins, that's the big deal having to do with lead. But actually, mercury is a much more potent neurotoxin than lead is. These are your heavy metals. And while lead will affect a child's IQ and brain and memory and all kinds of things, that's what's so tragic about lead. Environmental justice advocates have been screaming now for years that the lead in the paint that the children eat, the paint chips from the houses, that the paint scraping off the houses or whatever, that is causing their intelligence to be affected, and that it also is, and they think it has a lot to do with they don't learn to read, and then they end up going to jail and blah 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 blah. Next.
And it's in the liver. I mean, in the water, and the other one is in the fish. What's the mercury? Is in the seafood,
and then
the oysters,
mercury. There's a
scallops.
famous study. One of the first cases I learned in school, in environmental health school, was a Minamata Bay in Japan. And the folks came down that ate the fish from Minamata Bay had ouch disease. That's what they called it, because and then you got the Mad Hatters who had the paint. We can just go on and on. Keep going, tomorrow, because just go fast. So you get the gist that you got target organs, and you get this stuff in your body through different ways, and just keep going. Let's get down to this piece right here. Okay, so back up. Right here, broad classes of chemicals that impact human health. You have carcinogens, which are cancer producers, and they can cause cancer in different organs. I said earlier, I talked about the angiosarcoma of the having to do with exposure to vinyl chloride gas. That's a very, very rare type of liver cancer. And the reason why you were able to make that association was because the cancer was so rare. You never saw it unless there was exposure to the vinyl chloride gas. Another story, anecdotal, you got to hear this. A guy who was a senior vice president for Gray Pharmacy, that's a pharmacy chain in the Northeast. It's called Gray, like when they're like Walgreens or CVS or whatever, but it's Gray. Guy comes into our office and he is about to die because he had a box of hairspray sitting in his office and found out the cans were leaking. The propellant gas in the can was vinyl chloride. So he was thinking, oh my God, I've had it, not ingest, inhale the vinyl chloride. Endocrine disruptors. This is it. These two right here, the neurotoxins, the heavy metals, we talked about the mercury and the lead. But here's one that this is what brother, what's his name? Brother, told you I can't think, and you know I know him, Yahweh. Huh? And what's his name? We used to call him, huh?
Willie Wine.
Yeah, Willie Wine.
Lance.
He, at Miss Cooper's meeting at Lemoyne Orange, remember he made a statement? Well, he is talking about the fact that while we fluoridate our waters, 70% of the water supply in the United States is fluoridated. But what he's looking at is data that is now coming out. There are studies which are suggesting that there's no difference between the dental status, the cavities or whatever that we get because our water is fluoridated versus other countries that don't fluoridate their water, but also that fluorine is associated with lowering IQ and causing miscarriage in women.
And it's a carcinogen.
The endocrine disruptors, that's the one that you better pay attention to.
What is that endocrine?
Endocrine system is the glandular system, that's the hormone system in the body.
Of the body.
When you say the endocrine system, you're talking about the hormone. First thing we think about, Chuck, when we say hormones is the reproductive hormones. You think testosterone, you think estrogen. You got a whole bunch of hormones in your body, and they literally govern all the reactions, all the metabolism, everything that takes place because of the
male and female.
In males and females. All right. So dioxins, and dioxin is a byproduct of a plastic. Okay. It's a byproduct of a plastic compound. So when that plastic burns, you will have dioxin given off. So my theory is back to all those acts that I just showed you, the Solid Waste Disposal Act and the Recovery Acts and the this, that, and the other. If you look at this, you can trace almost a lineage from the time that plastic products became prolific in the country, which was somewhere in the 50s, and you got to go all the way over to 1965, 1975 before there was any real governing. Remember, I know there are some people in this room remember when we used to burn the garbage in
the
the backyard in the barrel. Yeah. So you got all these plastics products. Well, if dioxin is a byproduct of the plastic, and right now, if you are a veteran and you can establish that you had exposure to Agent Orange and you got diabetes, you automatically get an award. So that tells me what? They already know that there's a connection. So we were talking about metabolism and the interplay between the liver and the pancreas and whatever. But the dioxin is one of the most potent endocrine disruptors, and what it will do is goes into the body and acts like the endocrine, the hormones that are naturally present. So it'll go like carbon monoxide will displace the oxygen, and then you die. Well, then that's what the endocrine disruptors do, and they are prolific in the environment. The PCBs, you know the old. Okay, I got 3 minutes. The old those little brown things, the transformers, the electrical transformers, and they had little brown things sitting on top of them. Those things. Okay, well the conductor in those things were PCBs. Right. And so they made them in Anniston, Alabama. They made PCBs in Anniston, Alabama, and outside of St. Louis. And they poisoned the whole west side of Alabama, and you get all kinds of issues, whatever. Keep going, Tamarcus. Let's go fast. I think we've saturated now. We know that Memphis Light Gas and Water is our supplier of water. We have artesian wells. We have some of the finest water in the world here in Shelby County. You got about 250 wells. The water has a very low mineral content, has about 11 pumping stations. I did call to find out where the pumping stations were so you would know. And what we skipped already is the fact that you got the pumping stations where you get your water from, but you also, the law, the Clean Air Act requires the county, the Shelby County Health Department, and the EPA and the Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation. It requires them to monitor for carbon monoxide, ozone, particulate matter, nitrogen dioxide, sulfuric oxide, and lead. It's one of those 6. So they have these monitoring stations all over Shelby County, Crittenden County, Arkansas, and DeSoto in Mississippi, sampling the air on a continuous basis. So these are all the things we need to know about. Next slide.
Didn't know that.
I wanted you to see this one in particular. When I called to find out where the pumping stations were, they couldn't give me the information because they are now protecting that. Even though, they have a policy now. You can't call on the phone and ask where the pumping stations are because somebody might be sabotage. Keep going. Keep going. Go on. I think we've saturated that. Memphis, the water is great, no lead contamination, lead in the water, we talked about that already. Keep going. Cypress Creek, just wanted to comment on that. Y'all know what's going on with the Cypress Creek right now. We have a spill. Okay, everybody's concerned about the human or the raw sewage that's going into it. And I read the article and I looked and it said fish killed due to wastewater depleting the oxygen in the lake. But that last line is the one. Other contaminants, the PCBs, the dioxin, the mercury, the chlorine, it's already there. And they've been telling you not to fish in it because it's already there. That's the issue, not the human waste. That's just going to do.
The raw sewage been going into McKellar for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
I've seen it in there for over 30 years. When you go out there fishing,
next slide.
You see the feces floating in the water. Yeah.
Go
Catfish out there bigger than make it look like sharks.
Oh, back up. Stachybotrys, that's one that you need to be aware of. The black mold, we talked about mold remediation and how you get rid of that. That stuff can be nasty.
Can it be killed?
Mental, neurological, no, it can't be killed. You can only control it. Respiratory, circulatory symptoms, a whole bunch of stuff. But here's one thing that I learned in preparing for this. It is a whole lot of black mold out there, but all of it is not stachybotrys. So you gotta know whether or not it's that kind before it can actually. Next slide.
We have to get it
Next
tested,
slide.
then you can look and tell.
Next slide. Oh, this one is it. This is finally we get to the end. Bisphenol A. That's a plasticizer. It's a phthalate. It's found in plastics. It was a big deal because it's in the baby bottle, so we want to know where these big children are coming from. We talk about endocrine disruptors. If you're feeding them the milk in the plastic bottles that is leaching out into the milk, then they were getting their dosages, very high dosages of this chemical bisphenol A, which is an endocrine disruptor. Then you got E. coli. Remember I talked about the three kinds: biological hazards, physical hazards. Well, those are biological hazards. E. coli, cryptosporidium, killed about 12 people, remember, in Milwaukee in 1993. I didn't know this, but 403,000 people were made sick from cryptosporidium in the water. PCBs, dioxins, food additives, and the superbugs, finally. The superbugs, you get them. I remember being in school. I was at Harvard, at the Harvard University School of Public Health in my microbiology class in 1982, when the teachers who were in the research lab upstairs said, if you keep feeding the animals the antibiotics on the feedlots, they are going to develop resistance to bacteria and other microorganisms that ordinarily would not harm you. You had them in your body or whatever, you all get along together. Now you got something, and the big one that we know is MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus is what that stands for. And you got more of them that's coming. So Dr. Black, when I met him, he would tell me, oh, I got to get me some antibiotics. And I would tell him then, boy, you're going to become allergic to antibiotics. You better save that for later on in life when you need the antibiotic. But that's literally what has happened. 1982, by 1992, there was an incident, became national, the Jack in the Box in Seattle, Washington. 4 people were killed from an E. coli infection.
I remember that.
Huh?
I remember that.
Oh yeah, that's when I said 1982. I was in school. Sorry, 1972. 1982. Front page news in the Commercial Appeal, and 1992 Jack in the Box. Okay, you guys, I would love to do this, and where we could really, really get into it if you want to know.
Before we go, you weren't here, and I'm going to hope that you might find it in your capacity to help Brother Kevin. I hope, Brother Kevin, that you and Charlotte can work together. And we really, because at this point it's just been going on too long. We've been doing, and we need to organize this. I think he has the capacity to do that. And with your help, and if we all work together, I think that we've got a sound way to organize all these communities. What's your name, Mr. Evans, right? Sir? Yes, sir. Were you in the union? You were. So that means that we have somebody that will actually be ready to let's do this. And the best way to do this is to take all of the people that over the years have been in the unions, and let's try this another way. All right? So anyway, I don't want to hold y'all up because we got to get out of here. Is there anything that I'm missing? Everybody met Brother Dixon and Brother Holyfield, right? Brother Dixon used to be one of these lawyers that was helping everybody everywhere. But you've retired now, haven't you?
Yes.
And everybody, I hope, knows Brother Holyfield, and he's been trying to do real community development.
You better not retire.
Yes, ma'am. Erica?
Just a quick question. I apologize, I was late coming in. So you actually started out with, when I walked in, with the CBTU carrot team, and you all were talking, you had mentioned, sir, Mr. Jones, and you were talking about some opportunities for the community to help each other, as well as it sounded like you were talking about job opportunities.
Well, they're class, and they actually could possibly lead to the jobs. What we do is allow you to get trained. You can be trained federally, and if you can come back and then find opportunities there will be some opportunities when hazard situations take place.
Right,
You
right.
very well could be deployed.
Yeah, and then you then, of course, went into the presentation with regards to some of the hazards and things like that. I'm just trying to figure out how then do all of these things get pulled together? Is it through the CBTU carrot team? I'm just trying to get some
Through
understanding.
the care team. And I have these, you can fill these forms out if you would like to become a member of the CBTU care team here in Memphis. As I said, we have like 19 or 20 of these chapters around the country, but we're trying to build a Memphis care team right now. But those of you with specific talent, you know, please come, like Shep. He's an architect.
I just have one final question. This is my partner over here, and we're involved in this Urban Farmers Technical Assistance Project. And what we're trying to do is get these little small farms in people's front yards and backyards and that kind of thing. And I happened to run up on a study in Minneapolis where while we had lead in our gas, everybody's front yard and backyard in America is contaminated with lead.
That's right.
And of course, one of the big items is organic certification. So we got all these people who's trying to get their soil certified by the USDA, and the USDA gonna find lead in it. Anybody got any suggestions about how we
I
can?
would like to make a comment. Dr. Black and Ms. Cooper wanted me to come here and talk to the people about the new low-cost broadband internet offer. How many of you have an internet circuit at your home? Not on your phone, but at your home. At your home. About 4. Okay, 4 out of about 30. That's not a good percentage. I want to let everybody know that starting April 22nd, April 23rd, AT&T, met with President Obama. Before he leaves the office, he told us he wanted a favor. He wanted us to come out with a low-cost broadband offer for anybody that's on the SNAP assistance program. I didn't know what SNAP was. I do now. Supplemental Nutrient Food Stamps. So if you're on food stamps, or if anybody in your family or your household is on food stamps, you can get a powerful internet circuit at your home for $10 a month. It's a 10 meg circuit. To show you how big and powerful a 10 meg circuit is, I have a T1 at my home.
Whoa.
7 T1s equal a 10 meg circuit. Look, we're gonna do this because you can't apply for a job on your phone, okay? You can't do educational learning on your phone. There are a lot of things you need, but you need that internet circuit at your home. I don't care if you live in Germantown. If your daughter lives with you and she's a SNAP recipient, you can get a 10 meg circuit, if it's available in the area, installed in that home. For what? $10 a month, okay? I don't think anybody is doing that right now. Comcast had a program like this about 5 or 6 years ago. Okay, it was called Internet Essentials. I thought it was a great program. I thought it was an awesome program. I was proud of Comcast for doing that. But I called Madeline Taylor, the NAACP, the other day. Madeline said, "Hey, Chuck, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work, Chuck." I said, "Madeline, what are you talking about? This is not gonna work." She said, "Because they won't be able to pass the credit check. With this AT&T deal, even if you fail the credit check, you can still get the circuit." It's an awesome, awesome program. Our kids need it. When I asked how many of you had an internet circuit at your home, not many of you raised your hands, okay?
That's right.
So we need to get with this program. I'm gonna give the information to Carolyn and Dr. Black and Shep, okay? And look, I'm looking for nonprofit organizations to help me get the word. I don't want you to sell nothing for us, okay? Now, even if you have an internet circuit at your home, Shep, okay? If you have one at your home and there's a SNAP recipient in that household, and you're paying $60 a month for the internet circuit, we're gonna reduce it to $10 a month, and we're gonna expand it to a 10 meg circuit. All right, so look, Dr. Black, I know you gotta get out of here. I'm Chuck Thomas, I'm a territory CEO for
Somebody
AT&T.
block the door. Let's keep it in here.
I'm a territory CEO for AT&T. I grew up in Memphis. I grew up right down the street in Orange Mountain. I sold popcorn and peanuts at the Mid-South Coliseum from the 7th grade to the 12th grade. I made it in Memphis. I want you and your kids to make it in Memphis too. I'm so excited about this program, Chef.
Yeah.
I just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I've been on conference calls, just preparing for it and so forth. I got some information, but I'm not allowed to give it out until April the 16th or the 17th, something like that. But it's coming, it's here. And Comcast has an offer too, okay? This ain't about selling services. This is about empowering every single one of you so you can go home and research this stuff that Dr. Black and Carolyn and Shep are telling you. I got the two smartest men I know on my left and on my right. Shep Wilbur, a Dartmouth graduate, and Dr. Black. I met Dr. Black about 30 years ago. Dr. Black told me so much about telecommunications, I had no clue. I worked 17 years at MCI, left on a Friday, and got a job with AT&T the very next Monday. I've been in this business for 34 years. I've supported accounts, Federal Express, AutoZone, Smith & Nephew. I serve as a board of director for the Greater Memphis Chamber. So I'm in the business community. I see what's going on in Memphis, okay? My mama taught at Melrose for about 26 years, and she taught school about 39 years. But look, this is an awesome program. I need you to help me get the word out about access from AT&T. That's what it's called. Now, Comcast has a program too, okay? So this ain't about competition, Mabry. Not about competition. It's about educating our kids. Everybody, more black folks got cell phones than any other race.
That's right.
You know why? Because we can't afford the computers, okay? So let's move this forward. And Ms. Cooper certainly had the access to me, and we're gonna make this work, Dr. Black.
All right.
Thank
We
you.
gotta get out of here, y'all.
We don't really agree, but
Well, you know what? I tell y'all what.
put your chairs back on these tables.
Hold on 1 second. I tell y'all what. You need to go to redpilltraining.com and sign up so that at some point you can start the process of donating to what we need to do because we need our own building.